Rob Heaton from Stripe, thanks for taking the time to have a chat to us
Well,
today.
it's great to be here.
Tell me, how did you become a software engineer?
I think I actually got into computers and programming probably quite a lot, or a bit later than many. I didn't do any programming or anything to do with computers really when I was at high school, which is a bit strange. I liked video games, I liked maths and science, and those obviously aren't prerequisites for working in programming. But it's a bit odd. I didn't think about computers before that. I think I just felt like I don't know. There was too much. It was too intimidating. It just wasn't for me. So I went to university. I did physics, which I liked, but I didn't love. But the bits I actually did love, I thought were awesome. When we did this tiny little bit of programming in C, and so I did as much of the computing modules as I could, which actually wasn't very many. And then afterwards, I thought, okay, this computers, this programming stuff is what I want to focus on. So I did a master's in computer science. I worked at a couple of small startups in programming that they didn't really work out. But then after that, I felt like, okay, I kind of understood the industry a bit more. So I went to Silicon Valley, did a lot of interviews, and then ended up at Stripe, which is where I am now.
You've been at Stripe since 2014.
Yes, yeah.
What do you do at Stripe?
I work at the moment on our team's called security threat detection. So our job is to monitor all of the laptops, all of the servers at Stripe, and then look for any signs that we're getting attacked, that we're getting hacked. And then if we see anything that looks suspicious or strange, then we'll respond to it, we'll contain it and figure out where it came from.
So what does that look like on a daily basis?
It's a lot of different things. I think on a good day is where you just you get to come in, you get to sit down and just immerse yourself in this, or for me at least, in some like exciting technical problem. You sort of get to focus, write a lot of code, and do the things that you really enjoy. But there's a huge amount of other stuff aside from that. Because you want to make sure you're actually writing the right code. It's absolutely pointless writing a load of really elegant, beautiful code that just does nothing useful. So you want to make sure that you're doing something that someone will find useful. So you're talking to the users, which might be people inside the company or outside the company, and say, is this going to help you? What do you need? And then once you think you know what you're doing, then you need to design it, because some of these systems get pretty complex. If you just jump into it and go for it, it's probably not going to turn out well. It's going to be a bit of a mess. So then there'd be designing, coordinating with lots of other teams, and things like that. And then once you've actually deployed the thing, you've got your system, it's working, it's probably going to break a bit here or there. It's probably people are going to need some extra stuff. And it's that maintenance phase that can actually be like even harder. It's when you're just going at it, you're building the product from scratch. That can be really easy, because there's knowing if it breaks, it doesn't matter, no one's using it. If you decide something's wrong, no problem, you just change it. But then once you've got people using it, once you've got a lot of data coming through and flowing through, then you actually have something that you have to take care of, and then you have to add things to it. And it may be harder to add them once you've already got something to start with. Like if someone said, here's a car, could you make it float? That's actually quite hard. Whereas if you get to start from the scratch and build a boat, that's a bit easier.
So don't build James Bond level sort of submarine car.
Well, sometimes. I mean, that's a big part of it actually, is trying to figure out when to sort of say, okay, we need to do this perfectly. This needs to be really good, right from scratch. Or this is the time to invest in something that's really flexible, is going to solve everyone's problems for a long time. And when you've just got to be like, oh man, we just need something that's going to get us through the next 6 months. Here, we know that this is not ideally not how you do it, but this is sort of a calculated, well thought through trade-off.
Tell me about working in teams in Stripe. What's that like?
It's really nice. I think, especially when you're working with like really good, really friendly people, they're going to have good, useful ideas about the stuff that you're working on. So just the experience of working with like 5 or 6 or however many people closest to you can be really good, especially when you're able to not just have each person working on one thing, where you might have 3 people working on one thing together and then 2 on another and things like that. So there's that kind of experience working within your own team. But then also when you're interfacing and working with the rest of the company, in an ideal world, the team is kind of, you might call it like the interface or the level of abstraction that is exposed to everyone else at the company. And so by that, I mean, it can happen, and it's just inevitable, and it's fine if that someone will say, okay, Rob, I know you know about this system, so I'm having this problem. Can you help me? And that's fine. Sometimes that's right. But if it's something that my whole team is actually responsible for, then it's better if they can ask, okay, threat detection team, I'm having this problem. Could somebody help me? Because then if I'm away, or if I like fall under a bus or whatever, that doesn't destroy like everyone's ability to make any progress.
You mentioned that the company, you've been with the company a while. So you started when Stripe had 90 employees.
Yes. Yep.
And now they have north of 7,000.
Yeah, something like that.
What was the difference? What was the change that you've perceived over that time?
There's certainly a lot of things. I mean, the thing that I kind of summarize it as is the thing that used to be like half a person's job on Mondays is now a team of 10 people, say, responsible for or even more responsible for managing this thing. And that means that things, in some ways, it means that things can go really fast because there's so many people, and that's amazing. On the other hand, it can make things much slower in other ways because there's now suddenly like much higher coordination costs. Because it might be you had a team of 6 that was responsible just for everything to do with infrastructure, say. And then so if you need to figure out how this thing works, you just ask the person sitting next to you, or maybe like 3 desks that way if you're unlucky. And then they'll probably know, or it might even be something that you're responsible for. But now, if it's suddenly it's a team of 8. You don't know anyone on that team. They all work on the other side of the world, and maybe they just had a reorganization. So the team you thought was responsible for it is now over here. Things like that. That really does add up, and I think it's something that the company does put a lot of effort into trying to kind of mitigate those kinds of scaling problems.
It's important to think carefully about these things. Particularly as you get bigger.
Yeah, big time.
And it looks like Stripe's only going to get bigger, which is a very good thing, obviously, for
fingers crossed
for everyone involved. Tell me about how. I mean, you've been part of the development of ISE since the very start of it. Tell me, what is it that attracted you to that? Because I know John and Patrick sort of asked people in Stripe, who's interested in helping develop this. Why did you put your hand up?
I think it felt like, from what I could see about the course and the goals, it mapped just very closely to the kinds of things like my actual experiences day to day. And with the curriculum that we've been developing, I think that's really stayed the case, where the core is like learning how to build like well-written, scalable applications. That's kind of, for many jobs in software, that's kind of the core of it. But then there's also a lot of kind of ability to branch out. So things like security, data science, machine learning, AI, things like that, where you can students can dip their toe in it, see what it's like. And then that might mean they might say, oh, actually, this data science thing, I'm going to go off over and focus on that, or security, or what have you. But then even if you don't, I think there is a lot of value in being someone with experience in those things with a sort of a core software engineering ability. So for myself, I started working on products, so just things where you write code and users use it, and that's cool and fine. But then, because I sort of over the years I've picked up a bit, I mean, not as much as I would like, which I think is something I regret a bit about machine learning, a bit about security. So that's meant I've been able to work on these machine learning and security teams where I'm not necessarily an absolute domain expert, but I know a little bit. But then the core skills of, as I keep saying, like building scalable, well-written applications, bring those skills to bear in this specific domain. So I think, all in all, that ability to have this core background in building scalable applications together with a lot of kind of dots around the place.
I think one of the things that's been really exciting about working with you and working with the other companies that have helped develop the curriculum for ISE is just really getting a sense of the clarity of where you guys are coming from. So you're saying, look, we here's what the world needs, in a very general sense. And I think one of the things that I find exciting about ISE is the fact that the University of Limerick is really able to provide that in this kind of new architecture in a certain sense. But so we're recording this, it's the end of May. I guess we have about 100 days to go until the first
Yeah,
students
as you keep mentioning.
arrive. Well, it's a big deal.
Yes.
What advice would you have for these students as they come in the door?
I think it's the first thing that comes to mind is to just tinker with things like early and often. I think I talk to a lot of people who kind of can feel a bit paralyzed, where they think, oh, I don't know what the right thing to focus on or concentrate on is. And I think especially sort of early on in your, whatever you want to call it, like journey, if you're kind of having fun and learning something new, that's great. I wouldn't worry too much beyond that. There'll be plenty of time for like learning what the best database choice for this kind of application is. Just if you're having fun, then great, that's perfect. So that's one thing. And then I think also just when you're around just nice, interesting people who are interested in the same kind of things that you are, then do take advantage of that. Do sort of talk to them about like life and job and all of those things, because those you can learn a lot from them, and just those connections are really valuable. And I actually think both of those things, that like tinker often and sort of talk to people, I think those are things actually I could do with doing more myself even now. So
it's an interesting reflection. I think one of our goals for the course is that, people are not off in some corner on their own. They're working in teams from day one. They're doing things that are practical from day one. And I like to think that it'll be fun for the people who are lucky enough to get admitted to the course. And so I'm actually really, really excited to see what they do. I think it'll be wonderful to sort of mark that moment. But I'm also struck by the fact that you have a lot going on. So I want to just thank you very much for your time, and I wish you all the best.
No, thanks for having me.
Cheers.